Good afternoon, everyone. State Representative Emmanuel Chris Welch here. Thank you all for joining me again for another one of my Facebook Live conversations. I'm really honored by the guest that we have today. That's why it's called a special edition. We are joined by a husband, a dad, an attorney, former congressman from the great state of Illinois from 1982 to 1996, and he's been our U.S. Senator from the great state since 1996. During the Obama presidency, he served the U.S. Senate as the majority whip. And since 2015, he has been the Senate minority whip. He is the dean of the Illinois congressional delegation and can be found on the floor of the U.S. Senate almost daily, fighting for working families and the most vulnerable among us. Let's welcome the Honorable Senator Dick Durbin. Senator, how are you, sir?
Representative, I've always wanted to be on the Chris Welch show.
The Chris Welch show.
To be given this opportunity is the reward of a lifetime. So I'm glad to be with you.
You know, COVID-19 has made us deliver information differently. And I have found folks have enjoyed these little chats that we've had, and many folks have been looking forward to talking with you. So how you been doing? How you holding up there in Washington?
Well, I'm pretty good, except I get this crazy lifestyle where I fly back to Washington every week. I'm in Chicago, usually on Friday. I go down to Springfield with my wife and spend a few days there and then catch a plane back to Washington. And I don't recommend that lifestyle, particularly under these circumstances, but you know, there's work to do. And I know you're headed down to Springfield tomorrow. You have your own work to do there. And I don't know if they've given you your agenda yet, whether you know what you're doing down there, but we need to do a lot more here to help fight this COVID virus.
Absolutely. We did have a 3.5-hour caucus meeting today. We did get our agenda. It's a pretty packed one for the next 2.5 days. Hopefully we get out by Friday, worst case scenario, Saturday. But I certainly understand what you go through every weekend, and I want to thank you for the work that you do on behalf of the great people of Illinois and our whole country, especially as the minority whip there. It's not easy. I know you have limited time, so I want to get right to a couple of questions that I have. Just this past Friday, the U.S. House sent over the HEROES Act, and I think I read President Trump said it's dead on arrival. What's your take on the HEROES Act and where that thing sits in the U.S. Senate?
Well, I don't agree with every word of it, but I would have voted for it. There's some things in there that are important. Another $1,200 check for people. I can tell you an awful lot of folks need it. Getting by is tough under normal circumstances, and with this weakened economy, it's even more challenging. More money for our hospitals? You bet. A lot of these hospitals are hanging on by a thread, and we need them in our neighborhoods, communities, and downstate towns and cities as well. The notion that we're going to extend unemployment insurance, federal payments, absolutely essential. They're supposed to end July 31st. I don't know of anybody who thinks we're going to get 36,000 Americans back to work by then. We also need to help small businesses. And this time we need to focus on those that have been overlooked and left behind. The really small ones, fewer than 10 employees, for example. The neighborhood small businesses that are the lifeblood of so many of our communities in the city of Chicago and nearby suburbs. These are all programs that I support, and I hope that it gets over to the Senate, and the Republicans in the Senate who control it will give us an opportunity to vote on it.
Senator, you've really hit some big ones right there. Let me tackle 3 of them really quickly. The mom and pop shops. I heard from a number of them right here in my district. They were so disappointed that publicly held corporations received the bulk of the money in the first round of the PPP. Only because of the outcry did things get better in the second round, but not much. What do you envision happening for small businesses and protections?
Well, Chris, you and I both know what happened. The money went to the banks, and the biggest banks were ready to move on it quickly. And the first place that they went to move with it was with their clients, other businesses, usually large businesses. Now, part of it was understandable. They know those businesses. They knew the people who worked there. They knew how to come up with the forms that were necessary. They moved quickly, and they ate up the first round of money in a hurry,
Quickly.
leaving behind the small businesses. Most of those businesses don't have the big banks that they can count on. They don't do the kind of work with them that big companies do. They may just have a checking account, a business checking account. And so they were left behind. They were small potatoes. Well, in the second round, we made sure that we relied on community banks, credit unions, CDFI institutions to reach out to these smaller businesses. But we still need to help them. They don't know the ways of the world when it comes to these big banks and how it works. They're nervous about filing government forms. They realize if they screw something up, it could be the end of them. They're so small. So we need to work with them and have counselors that are standing by them that help them through.
I couldn't agree more, Senator. And another thing that I noticed is technical assistance has been a big issue for small businesses. Do you think another round of PPP would include funding specifically for technical assistance? These folks don't have accountants and lawyers on the payroll. They don't have that readily available to them. So do you think TAs would be available in this next round?
Yes, I think they should be. I had a conference call in the last week or two with the CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions.
Yes.
And they sit down with these business owners and talk them through and walk them through. Many times they don't have the full information. The owners don't. Many times they're scared away that the big hand of government's going to come in their lives. So a little bit of assistance goes a long way. Listen, Chris, the more small businesses we can save, the better for this economy. That's at the heart of this economy. And the smaller of those businesses are the ones that I worry about the most, and I know you do too.
That's right. I also worry about our state budget. What I heard today and what we're going to be dealing with these next couple of days concerns me. Our local governments that are hurting. With regard to this HEROES Act, whatever version comes out of the Senate, will anything be there to help our states and local governments? They're hurting whether they're red or blue.
That's right. And it makes no difference. And a third of the $3 trillion, $1 trillion basically, would go to state and local governments. Now, let me add quickly, the state of Illinois received somewhere in the range of $5 billion because of the situation that they faced, initially. But they need more help when it comes to the state budget. Otherwise, they're just not going to make it. And we need to make sure that money is there. And local governments too. The first round, money went to Cook County, went to the city of Chicago, Lake County, DuPage County, Will County, maybe McHenry, I forgot it. But those were the only ones that received it. Now we want to make sure we reach down to other lower units of government, counties, cities, towns, to make sure they get a helping hand too. They've had expenses they didn't run into, and their revenue has been hit hard. Governor Pritzker and I talk pretty regularly, and he's not looking for the federal government to bail out all the problems of Illinois. We got to do most of that ourselves. But when it comes to the actual revenue loss associated with this virus, that's a legitimate claim, and it's a big part of the bill that passed the House.
So I couldn't help but see one of your tweets earlier today about unemployment. A couple of your colleagues have filed a bill to try to help the millions of Americans who have filed unemployment over these last few weeks. What do you think of that bill you were tweeting about earlier today?
Well, I think it's a good idea. And here's what we found. We dumped the whole unemployment project in the laps of the state agencies. So the Illinois Department of Employment Security had its usual business. And here comes this wave of unemployment in our state and new provisions in the law coming from Washington. And we basically say, here are billions of dollars, now give it away properly. Well, they say, thank you very much, Senator. But, we still have the same number of employees we had before you sent us all this money. So now we've got to gear up. Many states, and I don't know our state particularly, maybe you do, have ancient computer systems. They're not up to speed.
We do.
But you do. And so it's not their fault when people say, what's going on here? I contacted Bureau of Employment Security, and they put me on hold, and now I can't talk to anybody. I'm frustrated. They should be. But J.B. Pritzker, the governor, has sent more resources in, contracted out for more people to deal with phone calls and the contacts by computer so that people have a chance to get their day in court and receive their benefits. It's been a slow process, but it's not for laziness. We gave this big responsibility to the states. They are trying to catch up with us.
That's
And
right.
unemployment's moving faster than anybody ever imagined.
Hey, everyone. I'm talking to the senior senator from Illinois, Senator Dick Durbin. We only got about 10 more minutes with him. Please share this with your Facebook friends because he's given us some great information. We're talking about unemployment. And Senator, that's probably the biggest thing my office is dealing with from a constituent basis right now. And so all that you and the senators can do for Americans and Illinoisans, we appreciate you and the work that you're doing.
Chris, can I mention one thing that I think
Yes,
is
sir.
important for your viewers to know? Some people who traditionally did not qualify for unemployment insurance qualify now under the new federal guidelines. So if you say, well, hey, man, I've never drawn unemployment insurance, that just isn't something I can get in my business, you might be surprised. If you're an independent contractor, 1099, you might be a person who could still qualify. So don't be discouraged because of something that happened years ago or months ago. We're in a different ballgame now.
Absolutely. Senator, let me ask you this. I mean, could this whole situation have been avoided? Could it have been handled differently by the folks down the street from you?
I can tell you this, there is no reason and no excuse for the fact that there are more people who've been infected and died because of this virus in the United States than any other country in the world. There is no excuse for that. And there are a lot of reasons for it. This president and his administration did not put together the stockpile they needed. Oh, they want to blame Obama, but Obama was gone for 3 years. And for 3 straight years, the Trump administration asked for less money than was needed to fill up that national stockpile of protective gear, masks, and goggles and other things that are needed. No excuse. Secondly, we could have started off with a piece of testing equipment, which the World Health Organization was using all around the world. But instead, the Trump administration said, no, tell you what, we'll invent our own. We'll start from scratch. We'll do our own. We'll get back to you later. Later turned out to be almost 6 weeks that we were waiting for testing devices. Remember all that panic from Governor Pritzker and others saying, where are we going to get this stuff? Where are we going to get the masks and everything? There just wasn't enough thought into it ahead of time. And I might add that when it comes to leadership here, there's no leader like the president of the United States in normal times. That president can do things that individual governors can't do. Think of how often we relied on individual governors to make calls, critical public health calls. You would have thought that the president would have been leading. When it came to this equipment that we desperately need to keep healthcare workers alive, this president has the statutory authority to say to a business, tomorrow morning, you are changing. You're no longer making widgets, you're making masks. And we're going to provide the resources and get you moving in that direction, but focus everything you've got on getting that done. That's the president's authority. He has used it so little, almost not at all, that it really has made this more difficult.
Today, Governor Pritzker announced at his daily briefing that Illinois is leading the way in testing.
Yes.
It's May 19th, a couple of months into this stay at home. Do we have a national testing strategy yet?
No, we don't. And that's inexcusable. This president says, if you want to test, you can get it. Baloney. You know, there are tests out there, and there are more, thank goodness, available in our state and other places. But for the longest time, it was out of the question. You needed doctor's orders to get a test. You need to say, well, I just visited China, or, I can't breathe. Then you get a test. But think Chris, if we decided, for example, to go to the places where we see the most infections and the most deaths, where do we start? Well, we start at nursing homes. I want to make sure that every patient, every resident in the nursing home, and every worker in the nursing home is tested. That ought to be the first thing we do, the first thing that we do.
Absolutely.
And let's get enough testing devices to do just that. We know other places too, meat processing, for example. The numbers there are sky high. We ought to be doing all that testing there. Let's take the testing devices once we've got enough of them and use them to protect our population from the spread of this infection.
I got a couple of nursing homes right here in the 7th district that I'd love to have them start at. It's an issue all across the state.
It ought to be done on a weekly basis.
Absolutely.
And that's for not just for the healthcare workers themselves, but for their families. Many of them are afraid to go home. They stop right outside the door and they take off all the clothes and put them in a bag and throw them in the washer every night because they're afraid they're bringing something in to somebody they love in their home. So, we can do better. We've got to protect these wonderful people, these men and women. And I haven't mentioned others who work. Some, as you know, who work in nursing homes, people who work in these grocery stores too. What are we going to do without them? I mean, they are real heroes. Are they essential employees? You bet when you want to feed your family, they're essential. So
Absolutely.
we got to treat these workers with dignity.
Senator, I only have about 5 minutes left. I want to be respectful of your time, sir. I do want to ask you this question. You were very helpful in talking a former junior senator from Illinois into running for president. Wondering what your thoughts are on another junior senator from Illinois possibly being vice president. Do you see that in the cards? What is Senator Duckworth's chances here?
Well, that's an interesting question. I did have a small role, in encouraging Barack to run. I was the first senator to endorse him. For 14 months, I was the only senator who endorsed him. I was out campaigning for him, and it worked.
It worked.
He got elected president.
Thank God.
So proud of him that he did. Tammy Duckworth special. Here's a woman in the Illinois National Guard serving in combat in Iraq who gets shot down and loses both of her legs, almost lost her right arm. They saved it, thank goodness. And then I got to know her and encouraged her to run for Congress. She got elected. She came to the United States Senate. She's a terrific colleague. Would she be a great asset to any presidential candidate? You bet she would. And I've seen it in our state, Chris. Tammy Duckworth can carry downstate counties that Dick Durbin can't carry.
Wow.
Because she is respected.
You're from downstate.
Respected because she is a disabled veteran with grit and courage and determination. And people believe that she is a real public servant in her heart. And I know she is. So yes, I think she's terrific, and I would support her in any way I can, whatever she wants to do. And Vice President Tammy Duckworth sounds pretty good to me.
That sounds like a pretty good first endorsement right there.
Well, I'm glad to do it.
Senator, before I let you go, any big initiatives that you're working on out of your office that you'd like us to know about?
What I'm trying to do, Chris, is to address this health disparity. There is just no excuse for the fact that so many African Americans and Hispanic Americans are dying disproportionately for their percentage of the population. It tells you the story, my friend, and you know it personally. People of color and people who are minorities just don't get the same level of health care and quality of health care as other people. And it shows in life expectancy. It shows in this COVID virus infection and death rate. We've got to do better than that. So a bill I'm putting in is going to move toward more and more minority healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, dentists, and others that are critical to make sure these clinics have people of color in them. We have fewer African Americans in the United States today than we had 20 years ago. How in the world is that possible? And it just tells you we're not trying hard enough. We got to get back on this case and make sure whether it's maternal mortality or the COVID virus, we look at the reality of the disparity of healthcare in America.
Do you have that bill named yet?
It's called the HEROES Act of 2020, HEROES 2020. And
HEROES 2020.
It's a tribute to the healthcare workers, the healthcare heroes around America. We want to make sure there are plenty more of them in the years to come.
And how soon do you think we'll be seeing that on files? Today?
Well, we're ready to file it. I'm trying to find a Republican, which is hard, but I'm going to keep looking. If it's bipartisan, it has a better chance.
Well, I know that if there's one person that we can count on to reach across the aisle and bring some folks with them, that's you, Senator. We want to thank you for all the work that you continue to do on behalf of the great state of Illinois and our country. I know it's not easy. It's tough right now, especially right now during a global health pandemic. But we really appreciate you. Any final comments before you leave?
As I told you, it was my life's dream to be on the Chris Welch Show. And the fact that I could join you today, and thank you for your service too in the General Assembly. We need you. We need to be working together for the good of this state. And thanks for letting me join you today.
Senator, my pleasure. And I look forward to getting in that car myself tomorrow and going down and do the work of the people just like you. And thanks for being a great role model for us all. I know you got a lot of work ahead and got another meeting to get to. So thank you. Stay safe and stay well.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Senator.
You bet.